Okay, we're here with Pan Global with our good friend Tim Moody. I guess we hosted the initial investment case would be last fall. I think maybe 9 months ago or something like this, just before the last race. And now we're back. The drill season has been going for 4 or 5 months here. Basically, a bit of a slow start due to rain and so on, but here we are. So I thought, Tim, we have lots to talk about. Why not just sort of high level, if you could recap what's happened since you raised the money to go out and do exploration work, just high level. We'll dig into it.
So, with the extra money that we raised, as you recall, we announced a 2 million financing. We ended up raising about 7. So that allowed us to launch a more aggressive drill program. So we had actually up to 3 drill rigs operating. And then we had interruptions, as you know, with weather and so on. We're now back with 2 drill rigs, and we're looking at having a 3rd again. So the goal was to really go for a multi-target drill program, try to make a new discovery, put some money into trying to advance La Romana ahead of the Maiden resource, but a big emphasis on trying to make a new discovery somewhere else that would, really help, lift the share price and get us moving again. So that's been the goal. We're still executing on that, and we've had quite a bit of success, I think, in this early stage. So if I just go through to a slide here which just tries to summarize where we've got. So we've completed at least 18 drill holes so far. We had 22 to 30 planned. I've listed some of the targets that we've got there, and we're still sort of lining up some of those as we speak. So I guess in the first instance, with the drilling at La Romana, we extended the strike length, and we showed the mineralization continues to remain open, and although it seems to be thinning off to the northwest, the grade is very good. So, the northwesternmost hole is 8 meters at, over 1.5% copper equivalent. That's predominantly copper. We also had 18 meters at 1.2% copper as well. So the mineralization at La Romana is open. It's open down dip, etc. What's not listed there is that we're actually in the process now of searching for or selecting who is going to do the updated the Maiden mineral resource estimate, but also the NI 43-101 report. So, as we announced that our goal was to have that Maiden resource out before the end of the year. But I can tell you now that we're already in the process of selecting who's going to do that mineral resource estimate. What else? We tested one of the targets called Pantoja, which was just off to the west of La Romana, like a satellite target, if you like. It seems to be at a lower stratigraphic level to La Romana, but we've intersected, albeit narrow intervals, but nice grades with copper, tin, and silver, similar to La Romana, but as I say, at a different stratigraphic level. So we've only got 3 holes in that at the moment. We've got some downhole EM suggesting there's more to do on that target, and we haven't tested the best of it. But that's quite encouraging and does open up the possibility that there could be another layer of mineralization beneath La Romana further to the east that all of the drilling to date would not have drilled deep enough to test that possibility. So that's an interesting outcome. We're currently drilling at Bravo. We've had a few interruptions, as you know. We had unusually heavy rain and persistent rain for quite a period, which in that particular location makes it very difficult to move or operate. But so we completed 3 of the 8 planned holes. We had 2 holes that we had to abandon because of the holes collapsing, etc. But anyway, we're currently drilling a strong IP target down in the south, which could be the up dip extension of whatever may be causing the gravity anomaly. But so we're drilling that right now. So that's a pretty exciting target, and we've still got work to do. But suffice to say that we are seeing, encouraging alteration, some sulfides, including sphalerite and galena, etc. I wouldn't say with the first 3 holes that we've hit an all grade and width intersection, but we're certainly seeing some of the indicators that you would like to see on a new target. This is a very big area that we're trying to test. In terms of the other project in the north, I think that's where we've, I guess, created quite a bit of excitement, which is Carmenes project. Our target initially was some unusually high-grade copper, nickel, cobalt breccia pipe style deposits. There are a couple of old mine workings which had not been tested, and sort of a forgotten area. But we've been finding gold, and we've got a drill hole program targeting the Providencia target initially. The first 3 holes were targeting just the in and around the where the old mine workings were for copper, nickel, and cobalt. But what we've found is that there is gold outboard of that mineralisation, which is perhaps now the primary target in that area. The next 3 drill holes are going to be testing a pretty exciting area where we've actually found a broad zone of sort of multi-element geochemistry with high gold. We've had some trenches and channel samples with 30-something metres of 3 grams, etc. So that looks pretty exciting. But the first 3 holes we had 46 metres of 1.1 grams gold, included a high-grade section there, 4 metres of 6 grams with a little bit of platinum and palladium. The other 2 holes, I think the significant point of those was that showed the breccia hosting this mineralisation is very wide, sort of more than 100 metres thick in places, and anomalous in gold almost right through it. We have intersected a narrow zone of high-grade copper, cobalt, nickel mineralisation with a bit of gold as well. But I guess the next 3 holes targeting this sort of new area of gold anomalies and off to the east of the mine workings is what we're looking forward to currently. We also was an opportunistic thing. We flew the Carmenes area with a helicopter survey. There was a helicopter in the area, so we took advantage of that. So it's a helicopter, time domain electromagnetics, also magnetics and radiometric survey. It's the first of its type in that area. It's a very detailed survey. It's a lot of data, but already we're seeing a lot of targets in that area, at least 30 targets. But there's a lot more work to do with that information. It's as I've said previously, a rich data set, but it's going to take quite a bit of work just to go through each of those, and we're doing that at the moment, and we'll be prioritising targets for follow-up. But the exciting thing is that we're seeing a number of other targets with similar signatures to what we're seeing at Providencia and Profunda along strike to the east and west and elsewhere in the Carmenes area. So the prospect of making additional discoveries looks very good indeed in that, as I say, largely unexplored area.
And it's so good that Tim was even reluctant to show it here on the video, because he thinks it gives the other prospectors and competitors in the area competitive advantage to see it, which is it's fair game. But you did include a slide where you outline the targets, and we'll get to that later in the conversation. But I think that this is a good summary of where we're at currently. So 18 holes completed, and you're about halfway on the planned program within the budget. So
yes,
are you sort of on budget currently because you've had some time delays? But to my understanding, that did not affect any rates because it was pay by drill, not pay by time. Or
we're under budget at the moment. So
under budget,
yeah. So we're in good shape in that regard. I think we can get more meters perhaps than we initially planned. So that's the goal. So we've got quite a bit of drilling. In fact, we've got more targets, more drill holes than we probably have money to complete. But that's a good thing. As the ongoing exploration is continuing to generate new targets, and we're continuing that as we should, this exercise of continuously prioritising and revisiting things as we get more information. So, that's what we're doing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's good with exploration companies because some exploration companies, they get sort of, when they get into drilling, they get fully bogged down with that, which is, it happens if you're not that good. But if you're able to generate new targets in parallel, that's what sort of separates the good ones from the slightly less good ones, I guess. So you've been able to do that, which is good. But let's talk about, I guess, the approximate cash position. Maybe we should just mention that then for people who don't remember. You raised 7 million CAD. I think you went into that raise with like 1 million CAD, meaning that you have probably 4 to 5 million CAD in the bank currently. Is that fair to estimate?
At the end of the last financial quarter, we had about 4.5 million in the bank. So we're drilling again. Now with 2 rigs, so the money will start to get through that. But the drilling costs in Spain are not that expensive, and our G&A costs are pretty low as well. So even with 2 rigs, we're looking at sort of 500,000 thereabouts a month. As you'd expect, there's usually a couple of months delay from when we do the drilling to when it actually comes out of the bank account. So there is a bit of a delay on that. But no, we're in good shape financially at this point in time.
So before we dig into each and every target there, sort of in detail, high level, what's next? So you have 22 more holes planned here.
So we've got we had sort of 22 to 30 holes planned. We've completed 18. So we've got another sort of up to 5 holes at Bravo potentially, depending on what we get, etc. And then we've got a number of other targets we're lining up in the Escacena project area to drill as well. A target we call Carmenes, another one, perhaps point to it on this map here. So you can see, in fact, Carmenes is not shown on there, but it's another one that we've moved up the priority list. We're looking again at Hornitos as well, Pozo target. These are all drill-ready targets that we're now just sort of prioritising which position to put where to put the drill rig first. So so the goal is still to try and test some of these new targets. Most of them are blind, so meaning that there's not a lot of indicators at surface, but using geophysics largely, sometimes geochemistry, mapping where we can. And the goal is to drill some of these, at least put 1 or 2 holes into several of these targets and see what we get, and hopefully we make our luck.
So you, in terms of timing, today is the 9th of July here. Yes. You're mobilizing 2 rigs. 1 rig is going up to Carmenes and 1 rig is going back to Escacena. When are they expected to arrive, approximately?
So one is actually in Escacena at the moment, drilling at Bravo. Okay. Drilling at Bravo. Yep. So, we all the...
Spinning since when? How many days ago?
About a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first hole is about to be complete, I presume?
Yes, it should be by the end of this week. We should have the first of those holes at Bravo completed. First of the next batch, if you like. The first 3 we drilled have already been completed, and we're drilling it's hole number 5, but it's actually the 4th of the planned.
Yeah, the first one into the IP anomaly, which we will review soon. But so that's there, and then the second rig is coming to Carmenes, right?
That's right. In fact, we were hoping we'd have the drill rig turning again at Carmenes on Friday last week, but the bulldozer that was putting the access into for the next drill sites broke down. So we're now looking at having that rig turning either Friday or more likely Monday next week. So,
Friday, So basically, within 4 or 5 days, it will be there. So by the time people see this,
that's right. At the latest by Monday, we should have the rig on site. So that's pretty exciting. Obviously, we're really looking forward to those next couple of holes up in the north.
And you mentioned potentially a 3rd rig. What's the thinking of where that would go?
Yeah, the 3rd rig would be, so whilst we've got 1 rig at Bravo, to have another rig at the Escacena project on some of these other targets, these first tests of some of these other things.
Yeah. Okay. I think that gives us sort of a snapshot review. So if we just dig down to everything sequentially, and I think we should just start with La Romana. I mean, let's
Yeah.
just start there. Yeah. So here we can see La Romana. So we were just discussing. Tim was outlining the, here we can see all of the drilling that's been done here. Maybe Tim, could you just showcase first of all where the holes have been drilled since you started drilling this season
Yeah, so
specifically?
if you can see the arrows, so there are 2 holes. Unfortunately, they're not shown. I haven't updated this, but the one hole
Yeah.
testing in here and another one through here, and then another one slightly down dip of this. So I can show in the next 2 couple of things, a couple of the cross sections showing the plan where the holes were planned, and that's where we drilled. So, but this is a what you call it, like a depth slice of the electromagnetic anomaly. And you can see, obviously, an anomaly, large one that coincides with the drilling at La Romana. And then we had this other target off to the west of La Romana. So, and that had us intrigued, and it looked very similar to La Romana when we looked in in more detail. So, yeah, that's we thought, well, let's put a couple of holes into that and see what we get. And the good thing was it was related to mineralisation. So, as I say, well, we've at this stage just sort of narrow intervals, but nice grade, and the downhole EM is suggesting that there's more mineralisation there, and we haven't tested the best part of that at this point. So, it's an exciting sort of discovery. You hope you find mineralisation with these things. You never know. But in this case, we did find copper, tin, and silver and importantly, at a stratigraphic level that is lower than beneath La Romana. So, if you can extrapolate, if you like, to the east, that this mineralisation could continue underneath La Romana, and of course, with the signal from La Romana, that would mask anything much deeper.
Yeah. So do you so basically the implications is that you would have probably an underground scenario that hopefully would be a bit thicker than you're seeing currently as it extends
Yes,
below La Romana.
yeah, I think we'd want to test up dip and down dip. So there could be a bit like La Romana. Some of the best mineralisation end up being closer to surface. So I think we'd want to test both scenarios. We've certainly got some targets in the downhole EM that are deeper, but I think a shallow hole testing the up dip extension of that would be worth doing as well. This sort of orthogonal view just shows the different layers that are associated with the La Romana mineralisation. And this is a sort of 3D, if you like, a wireframe model around the electromagnetic anomaly, plunging at depth. And of course, there's only so far you can see with the downhole with the helicopter electromagnetics. So it may continue, but that's as far as we can see. So that just gives you an idea. So from east to west along, that's about 500 metres, and it extends at least to 600 metres depth. So there's a couple of cross sections, if you like, through the downhole, through the electromagnetics, showing this sort of dipping body, and at a stratigraphic level that's lower than the layers that host the La Romana mineralisation. And you can see.
So I mean, these interceptor, I mean, you hit basically those holes you drilled there. It's a new potential sort of could expand tonnage significantly. But are you seeing anything currently that would get you more excited than the last 3 holes? Because is it really worthwhile drilling a 1-2 meter? Probably not. So you need to find something that's a bit thicker. Are you seeing any evidence for that? If you step
That's
out,
right. Yes, exactly. So 1 to 4 meters is not whilst interesting, is not really what we're after. Hopefully, we can get something thicker than that. You need at least 3 meters to be generally mineable, but for an underground scenario. But we're targeting wider intervals than that. So the downhole electromagnetics we did in those couple of holes that we did is showing that there is something deeper and off hole from where we've drilled already. So unfortunately, I don't have an image here to show you at the moment, but there's certainly another. It does warrant a couple more drill holes at Pantoja. Yeah, it could be quite a useful satellite deposit. Is there an open pit, near surface extension to it? I think it's worth putting a shallower hole up dip, to test that scenario, but the downhole electromagnetics is suggesting something deeper that would probably be more likely an underground target.
So, Tim, could you just go back to the last slide and showcase approximately where this downhole EM target is popping up?
It's in between. It's sort of in the center of this and beneath where we drill.
Okay, so it's offset to the Pantoja sort of plane there, more or less.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of almost between the two drill holes and extending deeper.
So you just put your cursor there approximately, and at what depth would that be?
Yeah, I think we'd be doing in 400-meter holes, something like that, to drill through it. Maybe.
And if it were to continue sort of up dip, if you would follow that thing up dip,
yeah,
where would it surface? You think approximately?
I think somewhere here. Looks based on the EM. It looks where it's still all undercover. So there is a cover, probably 20 meters of post mineral cover, 30 meters of post mineral cover here. So this looks to be the shallowest part of it. So this is where we'd want to test, and perhaps what we might get some, deeper oxidation and some that which could, if you like, weaken the signature, but give us some potential for enrichment.
So this is something you feel you could accurately test with one or two holes?
Yes, I think a shallow hole to test that up dip potential would be a 200-meter hole, and then the deeper ones would probably want to drill another two holes, 400 or 500 meters each.
And let's say that these hit. I mean, it's difficult to estimate, but what could the hypothetical target size be in your mind if you were to sort of confirm this thing? You have a 10. It depends on the width, obviously.
It depends on the width and thickness, but even at Neves Corvo and just about all the big deposits, the high grade zones, the highest grade zones, tend to be like 200 meters by 200 meters.
Very discrete.
Yeah, and they're higher density than, say, a porphyry and things like that. So they're very compact. You fit a lot of tons in a small volume.
Yes.
So that's, we've got to keep that in mind. That if you hit something, if you've got drill holes that are 400 meters apart, an entire high grade zone could be sitting between those holes, and then you've got the other dimension to deal with as well. So, look, we would hope that we would see, based on the geophysics, the downhole geophysics, that we've hit that it helps identify something thicker, more significant than we've intersected, and that would give us the encouragement to continue to test to drill that.
But you don't need to do any more downhole EM before you pursue these two holes. You have them in mind already.
No, we have sufficient to target the next couple of holes at Pantoja. So that's in the mix, obviously, with the prioritisation of the ongoing drilling.
But it sounds to me that this should be fairly highly prioritized. It's something that certainly needs to be done before the end of the season.
Yes, at least we've had success here. We've hit mineralisation on a new target, it's so close to La Romana.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
So is this something in your mind that you want to get to within the next 2 months to commence doing these holes?
Yes, that's one of the ones that's under consideration, and it's up there for sure. So so you can see a couple of different views. This is a cross section through La Romana, just to give you an idea. This is the helicopter electromagnetic modelled, coincident with the mineralisation at La Romana. It's the overburden. You get a conductive cover, and then this is a cross section, same colour scheme for through Pantoja, and with one of the drill holes that we did. So you can see.
If we're looking in this view, basically this target that you're speaking of would be in between the two planes.
Between the two and a bit deeper. So you can see it's actually a bit stronger, a bit further down dip.
Yeah.
And what may happen up dip is that when you get deeper oxidation, and you can see the sort of resistivity being dragged down here, you can sometimes get a zone of deeper oxidation, and that sort of destroys the sulfides. And that's where you can get some enrichment. So you could still have good mineralisation here, but doesn't have a strong electromagnetic signature.
Okay. So that's something to look forward to seeing.
Yes.
And then I just want to ask generally, with La Romana, what's the thinking now on producing the resource? Do you want are you happy with the current cutoff? Could you cut off now and just deliver the resources, or do you want to do the cutoff after you've done some of the you have 8 planned holes? Do you want to get those done first before you make a
Look,
decision?
I think we've got enough. We could put a resource out with. We could have done that last year, I guess, with the amount of drilling.
Yeah,
We were hoping to add a bit. We did that. We've added more. So I think, look, I'm ready to let's just go ahead, get the mineral resource. We know it's going to be. It's still, even if we drilled another 5 or 8 holes, it's still going to be open.
Yeah,
particularly at depth. So we actually went through an exercise where the next 5 to 8 holes that we planned. The way we looked at it and prioritised that next round of drilling at La Romana was to look at which hole has the likelihood of doing 2 things: either adding to the grade, increasing grade, hitting better grade than we generally hit, or hitting wider thickness. So the idea being using that combination on a matrix, if you like, the holes that offer the most opportunity for higher grade and thickness are the ones that have the highest priorities. You're trying to predict where you can have the biggest impact for each drill hole. So that's what we've done, and we've got 5 holes that we'd like to drill where we think we could add tons and potentially grade as well. So yeah, that's the exercise we're doing at La Romana with each phase of drilling these days.
So you're telling me you want to basically get these a few more holes through, and then you're going to cut off?
Yeah, I'd like to, but at the same time, I really think that the thing that could have the most impact for us is to make a new discovery. So if we,
I mean that's not going to go into the resource irrespective. That's just going to be a backdrop to the resource, right?
If we add another 1 million tons, another 2 million tons, or something like that to La Romana, that's not the same impact as potentially having a good, a thick, good grade interval on a new target.
No. I mean it's the thing where you have something that's you have a base, which is the resource. You have line of sight to.
Yes.
People start dreaming, but also, I mean, it's really, if you have a new target, a new plane that you're intersecting with similar mineralization, it gives you line of sight to something larger. So it's good. What I want to ask you, Tim, as well, while we're on La Romana, I think it's most appropriate here, is the just generally what's going on in the close by. We saw the permit get issued by, I think, for Los Frailes to Grupo Mexico. That was a big deal. Maybe you can sort of unpack that and then talk a bit more about what's been happening close by.
Yes. Okay. So what's happening in the district is obviously pretty interesting. We have a lot of interest in what's going on with Grupo Mexico, which are our nearest neighbour, and they're getting their permit to commence mining. So about a month or so, perhaps it was a bit longer than that. Grupo Mexico, or their subsidiary in Spain, Minera Los Frailes, received the authorization for them to commence mining. So we given the amount of interest we had in that news, we put a short news release ourselves out for a couple of reasons. One, that obviously it's right next door to us. We're within almost conveyor belt distance of that potentially new processing centre, new mining operation. But secondly, it was a further indication that permitting of new mines in this area is going on, and this was a challenging one. Right next door to us, and further indication of how pro mining this area is. So,
and for people who don't know, I mean, Grupo Mexico, they're a bit undercover. Remember, Mexico is like the 8th largest copper producer in the world, or 9th, and it's basically only Grupo Mexico that makes up that in Mexico. And they're a huge copper producer, and people don't really know that. And
yeah, the third or fourth largest copper producer in the world, as far as I know. So they're right next to us. We believe the grade of the mineralisation that we have is better than that they have. And the metallurgy is also, we believe, that we've got is the best in the whole of the Iberian Pirate Belt, as far as we can see from looking at all of the other operations and the information we have on Asnaquara and Los Frailes right next door to us. So So I think it gives us some interesting opportunities potentially down the track as Mexico look to put that new mine into development. I think their project, their plan that they were submitted for their mining permit means that they should have the mine in development by within 3 years or thereabouts. That's our understanding, and it's also my understanding that they've already began the contracting of to start some elements of the development. So that's good news for us to see that development going on right in our backyard.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit further away, the little Boliden is sneaking back into the Pirate Belt after the past disaster. So they're back there, and that's good. They're very conservative, but it's just it's a good backdrop for Pan Global, certainly.
Yeah, and of course, Las Cruces it's been no secret that Las Cruces has been up for sale. Following the Panama issue, the First Quantum looked to sell some of their assets to so they could free up capital for other developments. So, Las Cruces was one of those assets. So where they have they're fully permitted to go to the next phase of that mine, which is to go underground, mining the primary sulfide mineralisation. So, it's a new, in effect, it's a new mine from what it was doing before, which was an open pit producing copper cathode from the chalcocite. So, the next phase, whoever develops that, whether it's First Quantum or somebody else, will be looking at developing the primary sulfide part of that ore body and be an underground mining operation. So look, we hope that the outcome of the sale process for Las Cruces completes sometime soon, and we know who's going to be developing that mine. But that would also provide further options for us, given our proximity in the area. Again, given the advantage we have of the metallurgy of our mineralisation over Las Cruces as well.
So Tim, I mean, I'm sure you're hearing things through the grapevine. It shouldn't be an issue for you to say what you are thinking regarding timing of a transaction there.
Yeah, look, I really, we've heard rumours, we hear things from time to time. We hear it's close. We thought there was going to be a sale at the end of last year, and it didn't happen. So, look, whatever we hear, I'm sort of sceptical at this point. Yeah, I hope
no man knows the time nor the hour, right?
Yeah, that's right. Look, I know there's been quite a lot of interest, and they've had parties through there because we've seen groups visiting the area. So we know there's certainly there's people still looking to buy the thing, but there's no we don't have any we're not in the room, if you like.
Yeah, not yet. In terms of just sort of pragmatically, the resource being released, some people are looking for the timing of that.
Yeah.
Fair to presume it's going to be late Q3. Sounds like.
Well, so obviously, first step is to select who's going to do that work. So we're looking at 3 or 4 different groups that we've contacted to provide the quotes and the scope of what they can deliver for us. And once we've made that decision, we'll just get on with it. Whether we've got more drill holes into it by the time they complete that or not, it's neither here nor there for us. As I say, it's a good starting deposit. It's something that could probably be feasible on its own, but what we're really trying to do is get to that. The economics probably look much better if it's being trucked or conveyed to one of the other nearby mines if it's just La Romana on its own. But if we can we make another discovery and start to get 50 or that 100 million tonne scale that we've been talking about, and that makes the economics far more attractive as a standalone operation of comparable scale to the other big mines in the area. So
that's right, Tim. But specifically, I mean, 100%. And I mean, agreement, but in terms of the timing of the resource
Yeah.
specifically, it's going to be late Q3, early Q4. Is
Yes,
that's a fair estimation?
that's a reasonable assumption, Gorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly
Okay.
work to that. So we did say the second half of the year, and this is the first time I've actually said publicly that we're looking to. We've already begun the process of selecting who's going to do that exercise. So
Excellent. Okay, let's jump over to Bravo. So I guess I mean we sort of went through Romana here. Bravo obviously has been the main sort of new target here to hit. You've drilled 3 holes. You've drilled 5 holes, sorry, and 2 of them have been abandoned, but 3 have been completed and fully assayed. Correct?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So these 3 initial holes were sort of clustered mainly around the, I presume, your grav anomaly plus soils plus maybe some structural interpretation generally.
That's right.
That was the data set you had going into those 3 holes, and then subsequently, as you drilled those holes, you also got the IP data, and they were extended to the south as well. So it seems like the first 3 holes, they haven't been released yet, but you've probably had them for quite some time in inventory, so fair to say that investors can figure out they quite likely weren't sort of ore grade hits. So now you're vectoring towards the south, where you have this very crystal clear IP anomaly.
Yeah,
it seems, and that you got that after the 3 holes were already been drilled, to my understanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have. So I haven't published. We haven't published any results yet. We'll complete more of the program. But what I have said is that we've completed, as I say, 3 of the 5 planned holes of the 8 planned holes. Although 2 holes were abandoned. So the reason why we've got so this is 1, 2, and 3. Although it says 3 and 4 here. One of those was we actually had to shift the platform completely because we tried twice and it failed. So hence it says 4, but we've actually only completed 3 of the 8 planned holes. That's where they're located. They're all holes angled to the south. We have a couple more holes planned further north of that, which would be deeper holes. And then we have these other 3 holes planned in the southern part of this, which we thought could be the up dip sort of shallow extensions of whatever may be causing this gravity response. So suffice to say that the 3 completed holes up in here, we seem to be getting more alteration and sulfide mineralization in the hole in this one over in this area here. So if you like, there's been a vector both to the south and to the east based on the information we're seeing at the moment. So we've got some indication that there's a mineralizing system in the area, but we're still trying to find where is the grade, where's the ore body here, if there is one to be found.
So basically, you're thinking that the main grav anomaly is something that's deeper that you've not been able to intersect.
That's right. It could be something. Below the depth we've tested already.
Right, and the idea now is that you're see. Why would the IP be masked in that location? You think?
Not necessarily masked, but the target could be deeper. Now, so this image here obviously shows the location. The drill hole shows the gravity. This is a gravity anomaly image off to the left, and the top right image here is a orthogonal view, if you like, of all of the IP we've done across La Romana, right across through to Bravo. The sort of pinkish blobs. There is actually a continuous IP anomaly that coincides with La Romana. But in comparison to the IP response we have down in here, coinciding with the sort of southern part of Bravo, this anomaly here is bigger and much stronger. So up here we're talking sort of 30 to 50 sort of counts or whatever in the IP. Here we're looking at up to 100. So twice as strong, very wide. So this is a sort of zoom in on that cross section just there. And it's where hole number 5 is drilling right at the moment. It's just drilling through here. This is about 250 meters across. Cover thickness here is that's probably the base of cover there, probably 30 to 50 meters thickness. But again, this is a big IP anomaly. First hole sort of testing going through here. So as I say, that hole's in progress right now. So it's a pretty exciting target at the moment, and we'll see what's causing this IP response. But it's big and it's very strong.
Yeah, hopefully it's not an underground lagoon of some sort, or
No, it won't be. Yeah, well, there's no.
What sort of red herrings could you see, Tim?
Well,
for something like that?
I mean, geophysics is always throws up surprises, but look, we don't believe it's something like a black shale or graphitic shale, which is one of the things that could be. Some people talk about, or sometimes you can get, say, magnetite or some other mineral that could be causing it. But this is a very strong chargeability anomaly. So, we don't have any other explanation but to think that this could be generated by sulfides.
The interesting thing, I guess, is that you did do how many lines? Like 4 lines there, and the anomaly is showing up across 2 lines.
Yes.
And what's the distance between those lines again? Is that 200 meters?
It's more than that. It's probably about 400 meters, I think.
So, in which directions do you think this IP anomaly would extend?
Well, so the 2 lines of IP that we've got are sort of out here and here, and so this one here is being the eastern one. So we don't have anything through the center of that. So we've actually we've just put another line through here just to see, how does this continue between those two. We've actually just done it a bit further to the west. We've just gone off to this side here to see what happens. How does it join up? How does it continue? So,
how did you space that line, and when do you expect to receive the data back?
I'm hoping we get to see some results by the end of this week.
Okay, and is that like a 200-meter step out from the westernmost current line, or
to the west of this IP line here?
Yeah. Okay.
So
you do feel that the anomaly is north-south constrained?
Yeah,
I guess that's north-south,
right?
Yes.
So that's south, that's north. This view is looking towards the northwest. This is a cross section looking to the west, so south and north. So as you can see, the geometry of the gravity anomaly here looks, we've got something that's sort of more northwest, southeast oriented. So is that telling us something? This hole is sort of drilling off to the side of that. So what we don't know is the source of this either that we're going to hit it, or is it off to the side?
But with these 3 holes, you're certainly going to know what is producing this IP anomaly.
Yes, exactly.
You're probably gonna know. You probably already know.
No, I don't actually. So I don't know at this point. So
within a week or 2, I guess we'll probably see. But it's very interesting. Is there anything more you want to mention here, Tim? Because it's almost 3 times.
Yeah, I've not. This is the first time I've shown the IP here, but this is why we're excited about these next three drill holes at Bravo.
But it's pretty voluminous. I mean, if it is sulfides that's responsible for this higher IP anomaly, then you can fit something pretty juicy in there. So I guess we'll have to really hope that that's the case.
Yeah,
it would be great.
I've got my fingers crossed, and it says the whole thing. So, it's fortunately, I've been in exploration such a long time that I know geophysics it gets you excited and lets you down, but sometimes it's a winner. And that was the case obviously when we drilled La Romana. Drilled that gravity anomaly. We hit first couple of holes. You saw we've hit mineralization at La Pantoja. That's encouraging. Yes, it's not as sexy as La Romana yet, but it's a nice start. But that's exploration, and sometimes it's you need detective work. You've got to keep at it. Persistence sometimes is required with these things. And Bravo.
But I guess if you just bolster the argument why you think IP would be effective, because I do believe you mentioned before that IP and especially downhole EM has been very effective at La Romana, which should be it's the best analogy you could have because you just a few kilometers away.
Yeah. So when we first drilled La Romana, we had some old Exxon gravity data, wide space gravity data. So we just did 1 or 2 lines of of closer space gravity, 2 profiles, just to confirm the gravity anomaly in this location. And we did a line of IP. And there was a coincident IP anomaly, chargeability and low resistivity, and we drilled it. Really, as much as anything, to get geology information, because there wasn't any rocks sticking out of the ground there, but also to give us rock density information so that we could go back and model the gravity. And we were lucky; we hit mineralization. So we've found that at La Romana, IP was very effective right across the deposit, because it not only it gives you the chance of seeing disseminated style mineralization, so stockwork, and if you've got a coincident resistivity low, it could also tell you if you've got a conductive body as well. So ground IP we found is very effective for shallow mineralization. And then when we do drill, downhole electromagnetics has also proven a very effective tool. It can see mineralization off hole that you haven't intersected. So it gives you a chance to look well beyond that drill hole. So yeah, that's very useful. And the good thing about volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits is that because they have lots of sulfide with them, they do lend themselves to a variety of geophysics techniques. I should say downhole EM was responsible for a discovery of part of the Magdalena ore body that Sandfire are currently mining at the moment. Yeah, it was an off hole. The first drill hole was testing a helicopter electromagnetic anomaly, and then they hit massive sulfide. Then they did a downhole EM survey in that hole, and they saw an off hole conductor, and they drilled that and found a second massive sulfide deposit. Even so it's can be a very effective tool and lead to new discoveries. We found at La Romana with our very first drill hole number 1, we had an off-hole conductor off to the northeast of La Romana, and it wasn't until hole number 14 that we drilled that, and we hit some massive chalcopyrite, almost within a few meters of where it was predicted from the downhole EM. So we had, I think, 14% copper over a couple of meters or so, and so it's clearly a very effective tool, and in that case, quite accurate.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is good for Bro, and I'll just wait and see what's going to happen. We'll know fairly soon. Again, just a reminder, assaying time, Tim, so far, what should people expect? Because the first hole will be done here within 5 days, I guess, and then you'll ship that.
Yeah, then we cut it, obviously, and get it off to the laboratory. So, at the various sort of 3 weeks, but more likely sort of up to 6 weeks for all of the results, particularly if there's any overgrades, assays and so on.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Let's just briefly the other targets. We cannot speak in depth to them, but if you just jump to them and just speak briefly on your current hierarchization of which you think are highest priority and why.
Yeah, well,
beyond Romana.
Yeah, we've talked about Pantoja. We like this target up here called Pozzo very much. It seems to have a number of things going for it. We've got another line of IP going on up here at the moment, just before we sort of decide on the drilling. We really want to sort of make sure we position the drill holes as best we can each time we put a rig on a new target. But we've got coincident geochemistry. We have a gravity anomaly. There's an old mine working there. It's not been drilled before, and we've got sort of multi-element soil geochemistry coincident with it. So it's got a few things going for it, and it's we know we've got mineralisation at Cañada Honda off to the right nearby. Geological setting looks very similar. We've also got from the only 2 drill holes we did at Hornitos on the western end of that, we hit sort of crackle breccia style zinc mineralisation. So we know there's mineralisation around, and we've got a number of indicators also. So that looks that's right up there for us at the moment. We've been revisiting Hornitos, and we can see 1 or 2 drill holes that we'd like to drill on that. So that's up there as well. So
just a reminder, Tim. So if we start with El Pozo first, what's known currently? What were they mining there back in the day? What's the target style you have in mind?
Yeah, so we think they were mining copper, lead, and zinc. It's a very old. They're old mines. It could be 100 years old, or even more ancient than that. So, they're only shallow, only small mine workings, but there's definitely mineralisation. So, we're hoping that we've got. Well, it could be a repetition of Cañada Honda to some extent, but again, close to surface. So,
are you seeing any gold evidence there?
Yes, there is some gold from the rock sampling. Yes.
But you believe that the target it should be VMS basically?
Yes.
Sulfidic mineralization and
that's it.
In terms of the target depth currently, I mean, are the soils strong? Have you done any soil sampling there?
Yes, we have.
Only
So there's coincident copper, lead, and zinc soil geochemistry over a few hundred meters of strike. So and we've got this sort of small mine working there as well. So it comes to surface pretty much.
And when you say you've seen evidence for gold, is that rock chip sampling, or where have you seen the gold?
Rock chip.
Okay. Any mentionable grades in those rock chips that you have?
I don't have them off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Okay, but there is some gold there probably. So it's sort of a Cañada Honda style analogy.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's
okay.
So we have the older rocks, what they call the phyllite quartz sort of PQ units that sort of thrust over to the top. That thrust contact looks to be just to the north of the gravity target. And it's very similar setting to Cañada Honda. So a repetition of that potentially.
Okay.
Copper
and Hornitos, then you're revisiting that. So people who haven't followed for a while, what has been done there up to this point?
Two holes on the. It doesn't have a big bright pink anomaly, but if you count the contours up from the deep blue up to the yellows here, it's a big target. And it's quite strong. So we have again a very strong lead zinc anomaly primarily. And the two drill.
This is soils, right?
Soils, yes. Soil geochemistry, and we drilled a couple of holes on the western end of that, and we hit. I forgot it was several meters of this sort of crackle breccia style zinc, sphalerite mineralization. So that's the sort of thing you can get either to the side or lateral to a VMS deposit. So, but we could be a few hundred meters away from a copper part of the system. So we've gone back to that. We've revisited it, and we think we've got a couple of pretty exciting looking targets to go and drill at Hornitos. More to the east, where the gravity anomaly looks strongest.
You know better than me, Tim, but these crackles or sort of zinc exhalations, to my understanding, aren't they usually vertically placed above, not to the side of VMS targets?
Yeah, both. So you can get it outboard of the stockwork signs sometimes, but you can also, at the level of the VMS, you can also get it above and peripherally. So,
yeah. How have you been able to vector more accurately following up from the first?
We're using the geophysics and the geochemistry extends further to the east of where we drill. So that's giving us some indication, but the gravity anomaly and the IP anomalies, etc., look to be stronger to the east. So that's where we've been looking. I should say the other target, which is not shown here, it's not as doesn't show up as strongly on gravity. There is a gravity response. It's a target just in here called Plomillos. It has an IP anomaly, coincident IP anomaly, and a helicopter electromagnetic resistivity anomaly that are coincident, and it looks pretty sizable. And it's completely blind, so nothing coming to the surface, no sort of obvious geochemistry response or anything like that. We wouldn't expect it. So that looks like one where you basically just you put a drill hole into it and see what's causing it, and if it's mineralization, it's got some good size potential.
Okay, so that's some. So these three you mentioned now, El Pozo, Hornitos, and Plomillos.
Those are the ones that are up there. Portico is still an interesting target for us, but we think the others offer more size potential.
So you'll put in 5-6 holes between those three to test them.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's that, and that's something that's going to happen with the second rig. It's going to be commanded over there.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
And
Good. That's a
we're
pretty
going to
full summary for
we're going
Escacena.
to try and get those done just as quickly as we can. We'd like to
Excellent.
have those holes drilled, by August, and have results, just as quickly as we can.
Perfect. I think that is there anything else we should talk about at Escacena, or are we happy with this?
No, it's still it's a really prospective area. The only other news, we have been bidding on some areas in near Escacena, sort of, which if we're mainly to the south. So if we're hoping we'll be successful on those. They're not cash bids. It's a process you have to go through to get these areas. So we're pretty excited about that. If we get that, if we're successful with those bids, that could almost double our land area in this around Escacena and give us access to a whole suite of other targets and an area. I think one of the few areas of shallow cover that is essentially unexplored in the Iberian Pirate Belt.
But that package would be much like Escacena when you got it, fairly poor in existing data. You have to go and do that generation.
That's it.
Yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's move over to Carmenes, and I think we should just talk about the first 3 holes first. You drilled them. You got mineralization ubiquitously. Not any flashy grades, but what's your key takeaways? You've gotten the lithologies. You've learned a lot more. You're able to vector. Just unpack what you have learned and what your takeaways are.
All right. Well, perhaps if I step back a little bit, Gorman, just sort of create the sort of setting here that, first of all, it was an area that was opportunistic, as was the Escacena project area when we first went there. We were attracted to the area because of these sort of unusually high grade breccia pipes type deposits. Particularly an old mine called Profunda, another one called Providencia. The previous owners was a sort of quasi state company called Geochemistry. We talked to them, and eventually we acquired the first 3 mineralites over that what we now call the Carmenes project area. But primarily we were after the copper, cobalt, nickel. We didn't know about gold in that area, but we do know that there's gold more broadly in the region. So this sort of red dashed line sort of outlines a belt, if you like. There's an operating copper gold mine off to the west, called Orvei, operated by Romana. It's a copper gold skarn type deposit. So essentially limestone's in contact with an intrusive rock, which has got copper and gold in it. That mine's been operating for probably 30 years, still operating today. Public listed company. There's another old mine here, quite well known, called El Aramo, which is copper, cobalt, nickel, and then off to the east there's an area that RTZ drilled, and then CM Calcer has also drilled a number of holes and discovered a gold deposit with a few hundred thousand ounces of gold at Salomon. So we knew there was some gold in the district, but this was essentially a forgotten area. It just hasn't had any real attention for a long time. It really wasn't on the radar for a lot of people. So that's the sort of context. It's a prospective belt, and I should say this particular area where we're focused on is an area which has had, the limestones have had a lot of what they call dolomitization. And we think that's important because it sort of helped prepare the rocks, start to create porosity, etc., to allow for a mineralized, if there is mineralization, to start to infiltrate those rocks. So we got in there, and we decided to do the first systematic exploration in the area. We did a portable XRF soil geochemistry survey covering those 2 old mines, Providencia and Profunda, and an area around it. So this is the survey results, just showing the copper geochemistry. during that exercise, we mapped it and and we identified a number of other old mine workings in the area that weren't on any maps or anything. But it really highlighted quite a more extensive footprint of the copper geochemistry at both of those targets. In the case of Profunda, it's over half a kilometre east-west, much more extensive than the old mine, the main mine working, and similar situation at Providencia, more extensive copper anomaly than would be otherwise indicated from the old mine workings. So based on that, we then decided, and we could see a number of other smaller anomalies around the area as well. So all of which were not known previously. So this survey only covers about 5% of our Carmenes area. So most of it still remains largely untested at this point. So we zoomed in on the Providencia area initially with a more detailed soil geochemistry survey, and in this case we'd send the samples off to the laboratory and include gold assays in that. So this is again the first time I've shown all the multi-element chemistry here, but we have the copper geochemistry. Here's where the old mine workings were, just in here. They're down, the projection of the underground mine workings is shown in this sort of grey area here. But what was really interesting was we could see a whole area of a high concentration of high copper geochemistry in the soils off to the east and upslope from the old mine workings, away from the old mine dumps. So something that was not affected by the previous mining. And then what was particularly interesting when we were doing that soil sample, we collected rock samples as well, was it seemed to be an area of very high gold geochemistry in this area off to the east. That was not previously known. There was no record of gold extraction in this area. So this was pretty exciting. We were getting up to 10 grams gold in the soil, in the rock sampling. Of the 200 samples we collected over this target, 49 of those samples had over a gram gold, averaged over 5.8 grams gold. So that, in a soil sample, that's pretty unusual. And we had a number of...
Wait, sorry, you said they averaged 5.8 grams.
Those 49 samples in that area averaged 5.8 grams per tonne gold in soil.
It's very extraordinary.
Yeah.
And again, Tim, just so people can see here, what's the plain area of that, basically, approximately.
Yeah, so that scale bar is about 100 metres. So it's about 150 metres across or thereabouts. But this here is about, I guess the target area is about 250 by 150 metres, thereabouts. Yeah. So this seemed to be coincident with again, some breccias, breccia-style mineralisation, some gossans. There was some thin cover over the top of this. But I suspect, and we suspect that there's a little bit of surface enrichment in the gold, but the gold's got to come from somewhere. But it was not just gold. It was copper, obviously, but also it showed a coincident lead anomaly, particularly focused in that area. Silver as well, some PGEs and other metals, cobalt and nickel as well. So, it was a multi-element anomaly telling us there's something else going on off to the east of the old mine workings, away from the mine dumps and upslope, etc. So is that another breccia pipe or what is it? We didn't know, but what was particularly interesting was this very high gold. We had soil samples, and you can see here up to 24 grams gold in soils, which is I've never seen soil samples with that.
Tim, just briefly, how could such a enrichment of gold occur in the soils?
Yeah, so sometimes in a limestone environment, you can get some terra rosa, so you get essentially iron as the limestone starts to dissolve. You get some residual iron, and that can sometimes scavenge metals. That's one possibility.
Okay.
So, but the gold, there's got to be the metal in the ground to start with. Otherwise, it can't do that. So. But we knew that there is real gold because we had rock samples of outcrop, rock chip samples with up to 10 grams as well. So that was pretty interesting to us. So we'd already planned to drill a couple of holes through to test the copper, nickel, cobalt breccia pipe, if you like, sort of drill through it and to the side of it, trying to miss the old mine workings. So we'd already planned those drill holes. So those were the first 3 holes we did, and we got. Let me see if I've got it. So we got. And you see the first hole actually we drilled was abandoned. The hole collapsed and we lost the hole. But the first completed hole we had, average there 46 metres at 1.8 grams. We included 4 metres of 6 grams just in here. There is a sort of barren gap in the middle of it. But essentially gold down a good length of the hole with and away from the outside of the old mine workings. So that was interesting. It was not known before. And 46 metres of 1 gram almost from surface is not a bad result. Again, not much. There was no coincident arsenic, bismuth, antimony, no sulfide. Very little. It was a little bit of sulfide down to the south, but essentially it was gold only. So that was also interesting, potentially from a metallurgical point of view. So is this leachable gold as well? So then we drilled the 2 more holes. One off to the hole 3 went off to the east of the underground mine workings. That had 50. Got the results here: 56 metres at 0.37 grams gold, starting from near surface. A couple of intervals there: 10 metres at over a gram, 4 metres at 1.2 grams. I think we had another interval, 4 metres of 2 grams as well. So again, hitting some mineralisation. But outside of this area where we had the very strong gold in the soils. So, and we also had 110 metres at 0.23 grams with some, again, with over 100 metres of breccia-style mineralisation. You can see that interval there, sort of pretty continuously anomalous in gold. A few samples with over a gram, etc. We did hit the copper, cobalt, nickel mineralisation, which had a little bit of gold in it as well, just in here. It's about 4 metres wide in this area, but we know that the sulfide, copper, nickel, cobalt sulfide breccia system is much wider than that in other places. So as is common in these types of things, they can pinch and swell, depending on structure or host rock or whatever. But again, a very interesting result. That it's showing that the gold is far more extensive here than the initial target, which was the copper, nickel, cobalt mineralisation. So that's sort of it's now become more of a gold target than a copper, nickel, cobalt system. Just while I've got this cross section here, there's a red box here. So we've because we don't have the ability to drill a horizontal hole, but we've gone into at this level, and we've continuously chip sampled all the way around the underground mine workings in this area, and it's clearly a much wider footprint of the copper, nickel, cobalt mineralisation in this area. We're waiting for the assays from that work as well, and this is using a diamond saw, doing a twin saw cut. It's as good as a drill hole. But that'll help map and give us a better look at how the mineralisation is occurring and how is it distributed and where is it still open at shallow depth. So anyway, based on those first 3 drill holes, it's telling us, one, we've got pretty reasonable gold numbers here over wide and a very wide zone of breccia mineralisation, and that is west and out of this area where we've got this very strong gold in the soils. So when we decided to follow up the soil geochemistry where we had this high gold with some trenching and channel sampling, we found an old exploration tunnel down here, and we went in and sampled that again with a twin saw cut sample. Of course, we had no idea what we're going to get. You can't see the gold or anything like that. We've got 37 metres of 3 grams gold in that old exploration tunnel. Now, clearly, the previous miners who would have put that tunnel in were looking for more of this sort of copper, nickel, cobalt mineralisation, because if they'd found that gold, I'm sure they would have been interested, wouldn't mind it. So So we're probably the first ones.
So Tim, just one question just to clarify. I mean, that's obviously not like sedimentary, sort of, that's rock, that's real
It's
hard
rock.
rock.
That's
That's
hard
what you're
rock.
trying to
We had fresh sulfides and so on in there. It was so this is real, and it was very continuously anomalous right across that thing. In fact, the last samples ended in about I think it was 4 grams gold. It started in about 6 grams. So
So I mean, all of this is highly compelling, and especially you have this 4 meter interval there in the middle of hole 4 that has significant base metal intersections as well. I mean,
yes,
0.2 cobalt is not something to just disregard, right? And a
that's right.
percent copper, and the nickel there is decent as well. And you have the gold. So that's a clearly economic intercept. It's fairly, not so wide, but
Yeah,
I guess the layer in question here, what's the learnings with the lithology? I mean, you've had
yeah,
mineralization here taught, and I think you have some pictures to
yeah. I
talk
have.
about
Yeah,
that.
so,
So let's go there.
yeah. Again, this is the first time I've sort of, I guess, lifted the bonnet here to show a bit more detail of what the mineralization looks like, etc. So encouraging from the trenching as well. 20 meters at 1.7 grams over here. So this is telling us this soil anomaly is real. There is really gold in this area and over good widths and with some decent grades. So we've got 3 holes planned. There's one in progress here to the south, which is sort of drilling deeper. That looks like we are hitting breccia in that hole, but it looks like we're sort of hitting an outer part of the zone. But these 2 holes we're drilling from the north to the south. Those are the ones that we're really really excited about drilling. So the idea of those holes is to drill through and beneath this channel sample, and also beneath this trench over here. So and we had to put a new road in around the back of the hill to get to those drill pads, and that's what we're doing now. And that's where the next drill hole should be drilling from here to the south. So, and here's what where those next drill holes are going to be, sort of drilling from the north to the south. And I'll show a photograph in a little while where we've actually got the road all the way up to this point, and we've got the drill pad going in at the moment. So, but this is where we got here's that old exploration tunnel with the 37 meters of 3 grams. You can see started in 4 grams here. I think it ended in 6 grams gold. So,
And what's the pink unit there? Because it's mainly sitting within the pink
this is a
units.
combination of strongly dolomitized rocks, and here it was sort of more gossinous material, and some sulfide zones here as well. So the different colors are basically different strengths of alteration.
Yeah.
So the darker the color, the stronger the alteration. But essentially, it was all breccia, strongly brecciated fragmented rocks until we get out to here, which is these are Devonian sediments up in this top part of the hill and off to the back. So
really, you're doing this hole is going to be fairly shallow from the surface, but it's going to truly give you a nice test of this.
Exactly. So 20 or 30 meters beneath the surface, drilling sort of parallel to the slope. It'll be a continuous, drill core. It's going to give us a really good look at what the width of the mineralization is and how continuous it is as well.
And how long could you take that hole, Tim? You think? I mean, how long do you think it's going to be interesting?
Well, I think
based on the current
well, we
information?
don't. One thing we don't know is we don't know the northern boundary of it at this point, and we don't know the southern boundary. So we expect this drill hole will go at least a couple of 100 meters, and that's going to give us. The idea is we'll go through this upper contact. We'll see where the breccia starts, and we'll hopefully continue to drill through it until we go out of it.
Well, I guess, the northern boundary to some extent because you know where the sediments are.
Yeah, what we don't know is roughly,
how far
what
the
contact looks like, and what happens. We think the breccia actually continue on the western side. We don't know. We've got some outcrop that limits it, but we think it actually dips to the west beneath the limestone, so the breccia could continue.
But down plunge of this hole, what evidence or what information do you currently have to indicate how far it probably would be cut off?
We really don't know, except that the form of the old mine workings would suggest we had this sort of pipe-like breccia body that was sort of plunging to the sort of steeply towards the northwest. So that style of mineralisation can go very deep, if it's following these sort of structural intersections of some sort. Initially our model here was, we saw some analogies with a famous mine called Sumab in Namibia, and that goes for more than a kilometre from surface to more than a kilometre deep. So, it varies from a few metres up to sort of, I think, up to 80 metres wide, the breccias zones in that system. The mineralisation sort of varies within that breccia body, and again, it's polymetallic breccia system. So, depending on the structural configuration, etc., this thing could go quite a long way at depth. And we might have to follow the structure a bit, etc. But at the moment, the width of this breccia system here looks pretty compelling, and fortunately close from surface. So.
Tim, if you just flick back to the plane view slide briefly, and then we'll move to the looking at the rocks sort of lithology.
Yeah.
So you basically, you've mapped the breccia here fairly accurately. You believe that the breccia is, you just go for scale, basically 200 meters wide and bottom 100 meters.
At least 250 meters this way, east-west, surrounded by sort of more strong dolomite alteration. We don't know exactly to the south. It's probably limited just along there's a creek along the southern margin. That's probably a fault boundary. So we don't know, does it plunge extend to the south beneath that fault? We think in this area it actually dips off to the west, so beneath the dolomite alteration. So the breccia continues, so we don't know. But
this is something I presume that the not hole 5 but hole 6 and 7 there you could verify it by just taking those holes 500 meters. If you're within breccia, you're just going to keep on going, right?
That's it. Yeah. So exactly that and the rig can continue to go deeper. So we'll see where it goes. Of course, what we'd like to do is also drill more towards the sort of southwest to see what's the limits to the west beneath the dolomitized limestones in this direction.
So you don't have it. There's cover there, and you have no information about the lithology below.
No. To the west, it's covered by rock. And we know we've got a west dipping fault on this margin, but the breccia seems to continue beneath that fault.
But you do believe that the transition where we were seeing calcite breccia, that's going to be barren?
Yeah, the indications are that the calcite breccia is not carrying. Occasions has a few, anomalous values, but it looks to be less. It looks to be an outer part of the breccia alteration system. So we go from an outer sort of dolomitized rock into more this calcite breccia, sometimes with what we call zebra texture, then going into a more hematite dolomite calcite breccia, and then at the core of that seems to be the sulfide breccia, which has the copper, nickel, cobalt.
So sort of, when I'm thinking about this intuitively, I'm just thinking it might be incorrect, but that the center of this event would be around where you're seeing all of the historical mining and the base metals, probably, because they might move less, or I'm not sure what your interpretation is. Yeah. If that were to be true, would you not expect to see the extensions, as you're seeing with the hematite breccia, continue out from the central event towards the west, potentially the south as well? Or could you explain how these systems usually...
and I've got a couple of sort of schematic sections trying to convey that in a couple of slides to sort of help with that.
Please go there.
So this tries to simplify the picture, if you like. This is where the old mine workings were, the red being the sort of copper, cobalt, nickel, the sulfide breccia, sulfide-rich breccia system with the copper, nickel, cobalt, most likely around fault intersections and so on, in sort of very strongly brecciated material. And then surrounding that, we have this sort of more hematite or red matrix hematite breccia that is more voluminous and forms a sort of halo to the copper nickel cobalt. And you can see we've shown here some potentially other areas where we've got this copper nickel cobalt, and these can of course grow at depth as well. They don't have to, just because they're at one dimension at surface, they can balloon out at depth as well. So and then outboard of that we have more of this sort of what we're calling calcite breccia, and then the dolomite. And we think the dolomitization is very important for the initial preparation, creating the porosity, etc., for the mineralization to permeate through these rocks. And then we think that this mineralizing event was related to, first of all, these are Carboniferous limestone sequence. They've been dolomitized, they've been folded and thrust as part of the Cantabrian Mountains. But then after that, there was an extensional fault period during the Permian. And we think that that's when this mineralization occurred, extensional faulting, which, and high heat flow. So we know there's high heat flow because, you typically get that with extension anyway, but there are some intrusive rocks that are Permian age to the north of us. We don't have any exposed in this particular area. And we know that there's a copper gold skarn type deposit off to the west, which is being mined today. So we know there's intrusive activity around there that helps, generate all that heat and, emanate potential sources of mineralizing fluids, etc. So, that's sort of our thesis at the moment, sort of a broadly speaking, a Permian extension event that is with high heat flow, intrusives around, etc., that's sort of driving a strong circular mineralizing system. In this case, we've got strong brecciated rocks that creates porosity, and when you're seeing multi-stage brecciation, as we are seeing here, that tells you you've got a system that's been, it's a really strong system and gives you much greater sort of size potential and potentially grade potential as well. So that's
so Tim, I guess my question is: are you confident that you're saying that the historical mining likely occurred at a fault intersection, so the weakest point of where the fluids came up, essentially, and that's where you're seeing the multi-element. You're probably seeing gold there as well, and that's gonna be in the historical dumps. But you're seeing all of the more concentration of the nickel, cobalt, copper. Are you confident that that would be the main breccia responsible for also the surrounding gold mineralization, or do you think there could be other breccias of similar size that you haven't found there as well, just close by?
Well, that's the thing. So we don't really know what's going on. This is sort of a schematic, obviously, what's going on with this soil anomaly off to the east. But this could be what's going on. That things plunging off to the west, but it just as easily could open up, and we could just have a repetition of what we're seeing in the western part of this cross section.
Does the soils indicate that, Tim? Because I presume you're seeing some elevations just above the known breccia with copper, cobalt, nickel. Are you seeing any duplication of where you're seeing really high?
So we know we've hit some copper, cobalt, nickel in the old tunnel over here, and we're seeing it in the geochemistry as well. So there is definitely, there's reason for drawing the cross section like I've drawn it here, and why I've drawn this model like this.
But extent is not known currently.
We really don't know the southern, the depth extension, and we don't know. This is hypothetical at the moment. We know we've got dolomitized limestone here. We know we've got a fault that's dipping to the west, and we think that fault could be quite important, and that could be following that structure could be, one of the, let's say, feeder zones for this epithermal or hydrothermal system.
Okay, so if we now just flick back to where we could see the plan holes just quickly.
So that's
there. So with all of this in mind, which of these parameters do you feel that you're able to test with these 5 holes? You have 3 holes written out there. Hole 5 and then.
So this one here is drilling, a deeper, if you like. If I go to the cross section from here, drilling down. Oops, sorry. From down here, drilling to the south, And I think what we've done here is we've gone down through mostly the calcite breccia, so the outer halo, if you like, outboard of the gold zone. So, but that's we have to look at all the results, etc. from that. But that's my sense at this stage. These next two holes are going to test the full width of the system and hopefully go through both some the copper, nickel, cobalt zones potentially, but also test this wide zone of hematite breccia with gold.
What's the difference in utility between holes 6 and 7? If you just go back to the previous slide, what are they? Because they look to be quite close.
These two, yes, but they're slightly different angles. So one is going to test beneath this, where we had the channel sample in the old tunnel.
Yeah.
And the other hole is angled to go beneath the surface trench sample, which is about 100 metres to the east, which had 20 metres at 1.7 grams gold and some silver. So, yeah, they're two holes testing through this zone, but we had two very good zones of continuous mineralisation here, and this is going to give us a good test of that. It'll give us an idea what's the northern contact look like of the breccia system. It'll hopefully help us understand this breccia zonation that we're seeing, and it'll tell us what's the southern boundary of it as well. So northern and southern boundaries.
Okay, but the hole 5 is fairly steeply plunging. Saying, right?
That's a steeper plunging system. Yeah, when we drill that, we obviously don't know exactly the geometry of the breccia system, and we're still obviously just still getting our minds around the breccia itself. And I think I've said to a few people, there's a whole PhD waiting for someone who wants to go and study the breccias on this system. It's really quite interesting and very diverse in terms of the variety of breccias that we're seeing.
But hole 5 is in progress.
Yes.
How deep is it currently? When do you expect to?
That's a couple of 100-meter hole. So
yeah,
I think it's complete. It's completed now, actually. So
you'll move to hole 6 and 7.
Yeah. So this one we're just waiting.
Next week.
Yeah. So that's why. So the hole. I was hoping this hole, one or either of these holes will start by the end of this week, but most likely by Monday, because we had the bulldozer had a breakdown. It was fixing the access.
Yeah. Okay. I think that should be good for now. I guess my sort of intuitive question here: why don't you drill one east-west?
I think that's what we'll do as well. I think in the first instance we've got some very clear targets here. Let's see what the full extent of this mineralisation is. Here we know that this gallery ended in gold and started in gold. Let's understand what's this northern contact look like, and let's see how continuous and what sort of grades we can get in this hole. And same with this one. And then I think I'd also like to drill to understand what's going on to the west here. So one thing we'd like to do is be able to drill from here and drill towards the southwest, for example. But one day I think we'd probably line up back here somewhere and drill from east to west. That would be a pretty interesting hole, I think.
So and obviously, I mean, these two holes that's coming up now would be done, I would assume, within 4 weeks.
Yes.
Both of those holes, definitely.
Yeah, they should take about a week to week and a half each to complete.
Yeah.
They're not deep holes, to a couple of 100 metres or thereabouts. So, unless it keeps going in breccia. Yeah.
So early August, you'll have them done, and it's likely going to be mainly gold then, but who knows, you might see something very base metals rich as well, and if you do, then you could potentially drill a hole 8 right away, because you'll see that in the PXRF.
Yeah. Although it's not shown in those trenches, and certainly the easternmost trench, although there's 20 odd metres of 1.7 grams gold, it actually did have a zone of percent levels of copper, nickel, cobalt as well. So We know there's.
Do you think between those holes would it be worthwhile to drill one of them at a slightly more steeper plunge to make it a bit more different than the other?
Well, we want to. I think just get some further confirmation of what we got in those in the channel sample. I had a number of questions saying, "Oh, well, perhaps we've high graded the samples or something like that." Because we couldn't see the gold, we had no idea what we'd get. But so not everyone understands that a channel sample, a saw cut channel,
it's continuous.
It's just as good as a drill hole. But this but of course the old tunnel stopped in gold mineralization, so we want to see how far that goes.
Yeah. Okay. So but more or less, you likely will have to wait to see the gold results, and then you will decide if you want to follow up. Which, I mean, fairly likely you would want to do that because you have the channel samples. You're gonna hit gold similarly, very likely.
Very likely. I'd be very surprised.
Hopefully. Hopefully also wider intercepts.
It's just a case of what's the grade, how continuous, and over what width are we going to get it. We're going to hit gold.
But Tim, I mean, basically, my question is, you're going to wait to see the assays before doing hole 8 and 9 and 10 because you do have time to do more holes this season.
Yes.
If results is warranted.
That's exactly it. And of course, we're learning it all with each hole we're doing here. And it's only now we're starting to really understand the breccias and see this understand this zonation. Of course, I'm simplifying it quite a lot when it comes to, calcite breccia versus dolomite or hematite and so on.
Yeah.
So, I just sort of, I can illustrate that. I mentioned that we're doing this sort of continuous channel sampling at the in the Providencia mine working. So, and here we can see. This is a level plan view, and we've continuously sampled all the way around the edges of the mine working and just coloured in what might look like. This has all been mined out in the middle here. So the blue is the calcite breccia, the red is hematite breccia, and the green is the sulfides with the copper, nickel, cobalt. So the dimensions of that's about 35 metres by about 17 metres. So this, clearly the breccia pipe in this area is much wider, but it's still open. Yeah. The mineralisation, you can see it's in the walls. Some of it looks pretty high grade. But what's really interesting is the access tunnel, which is here, went through this hematite breccia, and that's the stuff that seems to be carrying more of the gold. And you can see it in a number of areas, and of course the miners weren't interested in that. So that's where we're finding the gold. Here's the sulfide-rich breccia, the green colour here, and then we've got some of this calcite breccia. So, in detail, it's more complex than just the simple model I showed before.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you can see the terrain here. So this is the new road we've put in. It's now all the way up to the top here, and the drill pad's up, and it's nearly finished right up here. So this will be drilling down through here.
Excellent.
And then there's a few.
You want to showcase the rock sherbet before we talk Profunda?
Yeah, there's a few photographs. Obviously, this is the where we got some of the higher grade copper, nickel, cobalt in hole number 4, the 4 metres of what it was now over % copper and 0.22 cobalt, 0.22 nickel, etc. 4 metres. We did have another interval further down, but which is this one here. But you can see all the sulfides through this with calcite and dolomite as well. Some hematite here, and this is what it looks like. All this sort of greyish material is sulfides, and it's a mixture of sort of chalcopyrite, various. There's a mineral called vilimanite, which is a copper, nickel, cobalt sulfide. But there are also nickel sulfides and cobalt sulfides as well. But it does also has some gold with it.
But the old timers, and you're seeing this on the wall, I presume. Maybe it's a bit weathered down in the mine workings. They were mining significantly wider sort of intercepts of this type of brecciation.
But this is the stuff that they were mining. So
the
stuff that I showed in the photograph here. In here, this green stuff. That is this. this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And this is what we drilled
Right.
in hole number 4. So obviously they.
Yeah, it would be very nice to find a 10, 20 meter intercept of this. That would be.
Yeah, but we know the good thing is we know from that underground sampling that it can achieve pretty good dimensions, and at the sort of grades we're seeing, it's going to be really interesting to see what the assays come from. What was left in the walls of the rock of this mine works, to see what the grades were here, and also to see if this red hematite breccia here has some gold in it as well.
When do you expect to see these assays, Tim?
I think those samples are the last ones to go in from this access tunnel, but all those samples in here are all at the lab now. So they could be a week or 2 away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's the, if you like, that's the sulfide breccias, what I'm talking about, what it looks like. With the assays here, this is the depth here. That's the depth of the length where we are at the drill core, so downhole depth approximately.
Yep.
With the corresponding assays. This is what the hematite breccia looks like. So you see this sort of red. It's in largely red dolomite, mainly in the matrix of these breccias, and sometimes it's what they call polymictic. So you get different composition rock types in the fragments, but the mineralization seems to be largely in the matrix. So you can see the sort of stripy rock. This is what we call zebra calcite and so on, and dolomite in this fragment. So we know that this is a piece of the outer halo that's been caught in this big breccia, but very strong multi-phase breccia system. You can see this sort of this red matrix here, 1.4 grams gold in there, 1.5 grams gold. And again, you can see some of this stripy texture. It's a bit like this. In this case, it's been replaced by the hematite or the hematitic dolomite. There's a couple of little specks of sulfides in here as well. This pretty boring looking rock, essentially it's red sort of weakly hematitic dolomite, probably part of a matrix of these breccias, with 5 grams gold in it. Otherwise, pretty boring looking rock. No sulfides in there or anything. So, and then the variations of the other sort of calcite and dolomite breccias that we see that more in the sort of halo to the system.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting looking core. That's for sure.
Yeah, and clearly had multi stages of brecciation. In some places, you get cavities. This was very porous. It's clearly had multiple stages of brecciation. So those are the sort of things you look for a really sort of healthy mineralizing system. And you can see that the different fragments in here have been altered as well. So again, that's something you look for. You know that you've got some sort of higher temperature system going on in this. And you can imagine with all this porosity here, once you start getting sulfides going into it, you can get these sort of very high grades filling these voids and replacing the earlier carbonate. I'm getting quite technical here.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think you have one more slide showcasing, the sort of outline of targets for the heliborne, essentially the flown geophysics here. So you can talk about that briefly, and then just mainly, I also want to get your comments on Profunda. Are there any next steps planned there, or are you just going to do Providencia, wait and see results, and then follow up?
Yeah, so Providencia, so firstly, the helicopter electromagnetic survey, say it was opportunities to helicopter in the area, so we took advantage of that because it saves quite a bit of money in terms of logistics costs to bring a helicopter back here and fly it sometime. But given this is quite mountainous terrain and so on, it made a lot of sense to try and use the helicopter surveys to try and fast track the exploration in this sort of mountainous terrain. So it was a combination of electromagnetics, magnetics, and radiometrics. First time there's ever been a survey like that in this area. It's a very detailed survey. We did some closer space lines over Providencia and Profunda to help sort of indicate what the signatures might be over those two targets. And then using that, we tried to see, well, where are the similar types of signatures based on the combination of magnetics, electromagnetics and radiometrics to try and identify additional targets. So that work's still going on, but already we've identified up to 30 other targets. Interestingly, following a particular level, a stratigraphic level in a couple of instances, but some other targets elsewhere as well. So I expect we're going to generate more targets in this area, but the probability of us making additional discoveries in here is very high. This type of breccia pipe style mineralisation is also a bit like VMS deposits. They occur in clusters. I mentioned the Sumeb deposit in Namibia, which it was our model. Again, in that district in Namibia, there are multiple of those types of deposits. They also, interestingly, have some strata-bound type mineralisation. So that's something we've got our mind open to as well. There could be some other styles of mineralisation that have never been identified before. But I don't want to sort of show the core, the original data that we're using here, because I think this gives us some competitive advantage at this stage. We have that airborne survey information to help fingerprint what the mineralisation, where to chase mineralisation in this area.
And Tim, just briefly to understand, I guess you're using the known. That there's mineralization at Providencia and Profunda because they were mined historically. You know what was mined there, so you're using what they looked like and then extrapolating that to new similar-looking targets. Is that the main methodology,
That's
or
right.
are you also?
And we'll use soil geochemistry and mapping as well. So we did a small survey, soil survey, as I showed early on, with the portable XRF, which is low cost. It's live. You get your assays quickly just over this area here, and we identified a number of other targets. One of those anomalies actually coincides with the combination of heliborne survey data just in here. So, and we know there's some old mine workings there as well, but we didn't know about those mine workings until we did that soil survey. So,
So I guess, Tim, you just briefly for this, you have this information. Do you have the bandwidth to allocate a field crew to go out and map and verify and collect more soils in parallel this season, or is that going to have to wait until next year?
Yeah, look, I think the second half of this year we'll be able to do some more, extend that soil geochemistry and start to follow up some of these targets. That would certainly be our desire. At the moment we've got our hands full. With two drill rigs, potentially 3 drill rigs, and we've got a pretty small team. So and we've got plenty to go, plenty. Well, there's so much to look at. I think that's the thing. We're so target rich at the moment. It's a case of which ones do we go to first.
So my question for Profunda, for now, you're going to let Profunda sit. You're doing Providencia and following up Providencia and waiting for those assays first.
Yeah. Right? So Profunda's not. We're not letting that rest either. So we haven't done that detailed infill soil survey, where we sent the samples off to the lab and got gold assays. We haven't done that yet at Profunda, but that's certainly something we'd like to do as soon as possible. As soon as we've got the hands free to be able to go and complete that exercise. We did some more underground sampling there. We put some of those results out there. So already we've published that. But this has had a much bigger soil geochemistry footprint from the copper soil geochemistry we did with the portable XRF. So Profunda was a much bigger old mine working than Providencia. Went to about 200 metres depth. So this is a really interesting target, and whilst we're pretty focused on Providencia at the moment, we start to get some good drill results from these next couple of holes here, and I think that could really change the whole priority we assign to the work going on in the Carmenes.
But Tim, with Profunda specifically, you're planning on advancing that to a stage where you can design drill holes?
Yeah, in fact, we've already, a bit like we did at Providencia, we looked at sort of where could we drill to give us an early look at what the miners were mining here, and we've actually got 2 or 3 holes already more or less designed to go and test test that at Profunda. So again, just I don't want to sort of promise we'll be drilling that anytime soon this season, but we've certainly done the work. At the moment, we just want to see what we get at Providencia, because we've obviously had some pretty exciting results from Providencia at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you have the time to do it this year, but quite likely, Providencia is going to be compelling lower risk to follow up on compared to going drilling newly at Profunda. So those targets will sit there fairly likely and be deprioritized over Providencia for now. But maybe you want to add another rig to Carmenes, who knows? But that might be next season.
That's next. As I say, we've got more targets and we'll have money to drill. So there's no shortage.
It's a process. It's re-rating cost of capital, and hopefully you're able to do that with the coming drilling here. Both, I guess, mainly in my mind, Bravo, the IP anomaly at Bravo, and then the coming 3 holes at Providencia, really testing the gold potential there. Truly,
they're the near-term things that could really generate something. But as you know, with these systems, any one of those other targets in the Escacena project area could deliver a discovery as well. So, we're conscious of that as well. Some of those other targets look pretty good as well.
And just finally, Tim, the third rig, what's the impetus or what's the trigger to bring that in?
We're hoping to do that maybe next week or the week after.
Okay, so basically 2 rigs, Escacena, 1 at Providencia. Is this going to be the chessboard?
Yes.
Okay. Tim, that was a good update. I think we should be happy with that. We've gone for 2 hours now, so I think this should be rigorous and sufficient to describe what's going on.
Yeah.
Do you have any final comments, Tim?
No, look, the team's really excited here. It's a nice problem to have that we've got, too many targets almost at the moment. So, but I think that the prospects of us making additional discoveries here are really as good, if not better, than they've ever been for the company. We're going to hit gold at Providencia with those next couple of drill holes, without a shadow of a doubt. It's just a question of how what grade, what width, how continuous is it. And it's a brand new gold discovery. Perhaps I think it's the first sort of new, potentially meaningful gold discovery in Spain for many, perhaps 2 or 3 decades. So let's hope it continues.
Yeah, Godspeed, Tim. We'll be in touch, and obviously we're following eagerly, and we'll speak next time when we see those results. I think.
Yeah, I look forward to releasing those just as soon as possible. Thanks. Cool.